My name is Katie Musick, and I did my case study on Mill Creek. Creek is located mainly in Jackson and Wood County, flowing through the city of Ripley, West Virginia mainly. The stream is about 29 miles long with a drainage area located in Millwood of 608 kilometers square, and the stream is also a warm water stream. The watershed that Mills Creek is located in is the Middle Ohio South watershed, and the types of land uses we have here are mainly deciduous forest, which is about 71%, industrial and agricultural, and there's a low residential area just because of the mountainous topography that we have. And as you can see with the point sources and non-point sources, that really explains the land uses there, because for point sources we have in Ripley the wastewater treatment plant that's there. There's a lot of package plants and stormwater construction going on. And for non-point sources, since there is urban areas, we get a lot of storm water runoff and agricultural lands from small farming that we have in the area. This is according to the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. Mills Creek is a Category 4A because it does not support for public drinking, recreational use, or aquatic life, due to one or more of the contaminants impairing the stream. As you can see on the slide, the designated uses that are required by the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection are on there, and Mills Creek does not support any of them. So why is this stream on the 303D list? And it's because of the parameters of the high levels of fecal coliform, iron, and conditions not allowable for the biological stress of aquatic life, specifically organic enrichment and sedimentation. And all these parameters are impaired for the entire length of Mills Creek, which is 29.4 miles long. To calculate TMDL, we must add up the sum of the waste allocation plus load allocation plus margin of safety. So, for example, with daily fecal coliform, we take the baseline allocations, which are the current levels of the stream, and compare that to the wastewater allocations, which are the point sources, and the load allocations, which are the non-point sources, and then add that up to the margin of safety, which is 5% between the range of the contaminant to receive the TMDL counts per day. Iron is calculated the exact same way, except that we use pounds per day instead. For the biological stressors of the organic enrichment and sedimentation, the overall stressors was given a 67.8, which was provided by the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, and this is not necessarily it's still impaired, but it's more of a risk zone now rather than completely impaired according to their scale. The method for collecting the data for the TMDL is both for iron and fecal coliform. They're the exact same with a grab sample, except there is a different method in how you collect it. For fecal coliform, we use a pre-sterilized bottle with a tablet of sodium thiosulfate, and you pack it with ice, and it needs to be held on with ice for 12 hours, and then it can be analyzed through the lab. With iron, however, you take a bottle and treat it with nitric acid, and so that can have a pH less than 2, and then it can be tested as well. For biological stressors, it's different, as you can collect microinvertebrates or insects in different points of the streams where you sampled your iron and fecal coliform. You can do that as well to understand the habitat's richness. This is based off the whiskey scores, which states that the stream below 68 is impaired, and between 68 and 78 is referred as the gray zone. 69 and above is a biologically well-ordered stream. The strategy to help the future growth of this stream is for fecal coliform is to reduce the amount of untreated sewage discharge and reduce the amount of combined sewage overflow to its criterion value. And with this, we can help educate others in the area, especially in the urban and agricultural areas, about how to work with their septic tanks, and just remember to clean them out properly so that way raw sewage isn't not getting to the streams. For iron, the implementation plan is to reduce surface runoff, reduce stream bank erosion, and to reduce the construction runoff. And for the construction runoff, the plan is to only have 1% of the watershed is allowed to go through construction to help reduce the metals that are going into the stream. And for the biological stressors, by reducing the iron and the fecal coliform levels, this will diminish the biological stressors in the area. The health of the watershed received a WVSCI score of 62.61 near Ripley, West Virginia. And this means that the stream is impaired because according to their scale, a 68 or below is considered impaired, and above that is considered stabilized. The West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection gave another score for the stream of Mill Creek just individually, and it received a score of 67.8, which is in the gray zone, but is still considered impaired. And this is mainly from pollution and human disturbance because of the land uses. There are industrial and some residential and commercial areas that cause this impairment. And this can be seen in the picture. As you can see, the bank stability is quite eroded because of taking the stabilization of the roots from removal of trees out. The canopy is about less than 50%, and there is some riparian vegetation. As you see, there's shrubs and trees, and there's also large woody debris. You can see that in the back, and this affects the habitat's richness and species, and it helps the distribution of aquatic life and provides refuge for these species. Continuing with the health of the watershed, the water quality is poor due to iron levels and other metal contaminants that erode into the stream. This causes toxicity to the aquatic life. And this is mainly due to the industrial and urban areas, such as I said earlier in the last slide. For example, for industrial areas, by leaving out equipment and during like a high intensity rainfall, this can cause the metals to leach into the soil, and which erodes into the streams. Also, there was a high index of trash according to locals in the area, and such as there's a lot of tires and plastic bags floating in the stream or being near the stream. So overall, the health of the watershed is impaired, but if worked on was to completely just focus on the implementation plan, the stream could be stabilized. For the types of NDPS permits in Mill Creek, I found that there were 11 individual general permits for sewage facilities, 28 package plant general permits for stormwater construction, and 19 industrial permits that were individual for groundwater remediation. For the whole watershed, there was 101 home aeration units, which are just individual septic tanks, and this affects the watershed completely, including Mill Creek, because having that much creates a higher fecal coliform. The general stormwater constructions for the major contaminants are iron, fuel, and just other sediments. The source of these contaminants is mainly surface runoff. The monitoring regimen is every week to inspect the erosion control within 24 hours of a storm. For general stormwater industrial, the major contaminants are toxic chemicals, fuels such as and fuel metals such as aluminum or copper, because that can really impact the aquatic life that you have. For the source of this contaminant is like the unsheltered equipment, metals that are there, oil from storage tanks. So the monitoring regimen is to inspect the equipment weekly, keep equipment in safer areas, and put fuel in different storage tanks or different storage area where they're not exposed to the stream adaptation. And then for sewage general permits, it's the major contaminant is fecal coliform, and that's just from raw sewage, from just using the bathroom. And the monitoring regimen here is for monthly fecal coliform grab as the method I explained earlier, so that way the levels are maintained of the geometric mean of 200 counts per milliliter. And just the inspection of the equipment, make sure nothing is not working, like So I wanted to go into a little further of just the NPDES permits that I was looking at, and one of them was the Ripley wastewater treatment plant, and the contaminants they had were fecal coliform grease and just other discharges, and they were violating their exceedance limit, and that was stated in the West Virginia Code of 22-11-15, and that there's no exceeding your limits or you'll be fined. Basically, that was what that code was saying. And the storm on the next permit that I have here of the conference center, that was a stormwater construction because they were having a lot of trouble with their groundwater and like it mixing, from my understanding. So the contaminant here was fecal coliform just from the raw sewage that was happening. And there is my works cited page. Thank you so much.